Hi, I'm Louisa. Welcome to our session today. We're going to do mainly Pilates, a little bit of yoga based on heart opening and some lovely shoulder and upper body release and neck release. So I hope you enjoy it. If you've got props handy, cushions, overball and a band, always useful. Otherwise, substitute with whatever you have around, whether it's a pillow or a cushion off of the sofa or something, and we'll be fine. So we'll head towards your mat. I'm going to come onto your back, so you might prefer to lie onto your side and then roll onto your back. So in our relaxation position, which we've covered previously, but we will set up the pelvis in neutral, hips level with each other, the hip bones, belly button and your pubic bone, and the legs parallel in line with those hip bones, ribs heavy, shoulders wide and neck long. So you might need a small cushion under your head and still keeping space for the neck. We're trying to get to a point where the chin and the forehead are parallel with each other. If you do have an overball handy and it's comfortable for you, you might prefer to switch over and have the ball under your head, keeping your neck free as we get settled in this position. But if that's not comfortable, you swap for the cushion or you stay with the cushion. I'm going to stay with the cushion today. So I'm settling into neutral, coming into your breath. Hands on the side of the ribs might be helpful to get into that lateral breath. The shoulders soften. You can begin to take a breath in through the nose and then out either through mouth or through nose. Just a few breaths as you begin to settle and check in. Try to find that expansion side to side, front to back, top to bottom as you inhale. And as you exhale and everything begins to soften down, just gently switching on that more conscious connection to your centre. And then inhale, we'll slowly soften that down. So take a few moments to settle, to breathe, to centre. And then once you have, try to make sure we've got even distance between ear to collarbone or shoulder, both sides. So you might have the ball under your head, you might have your cushion, the neck is long. And just with a comfortable breath, find length right at the back of the neck as you let your chin come towards your chest without squashing it right down to your throat. I'm just lengthening the back of the neck and then returning. So moving right from the tip of the spine where it inserts into your skull. It isn't a massive movement, but it can be quite a deep stretch sensation at the back of the neck. So see how it feels. Some of you might prefer to stay neutral. Some of you, it might suit you just to kind of maybe look behind you a little bit, so for a small amount of extension, but keep it more neutral if you need to. So just gently rocking and lengthening. And either you stay with that or you settle, we're in neutral, chin and forehead parallel with each other, and just gently let your head roll side to side a couple of times. If your eyes are open, you have an even gaze as you look from side to side. It may feel nice to just let your head turn to one side and then nod a couple of times, and then back through to the other side and nod a couple of times. We're settled back in the middle, so gazing straight up. And let the arms float up in line with your shoulders. So palms could face in, collarbones nice and wide, and we'll just take a few shoulder drops. So inhale as you reach one arm up, exhale as you just soften and melt that shoulder back to the mat. Inhale as you reach, exhale as you soften that shoulder. You can do one at a time, you can do both together. You may wish to try with turning the arms and palms to face the wall behind you. And just notice how that might change that sensation across the collarbones and across the front of the chest. Let's do one or two more. And let the arms float down, fingertips can come to shoulders, and you can do a few gentle circles here. So just smoothing, working round that shoulder joint, and then we'll settle and land from there. We're going to get the pelvis moving and head towards some gentle spine curls. If you have hamstrings that are maybe a little tight, you might wish to do a brief hamstring stretch, and you can refer to that in other videos, so I'll put the link below if you need to do that, and then come back to this session. So as we are going to get the pelvis moving and the spine moving, you may not need so much head support, so definitely get rid of any ball you might have behind your head, and perhaps a cushion depending on how much you started off with. And I've dropped my prop now anyway, so never mind. So we'll keep the feet maybe a little closer to your bottom, legs are still parallel. Get a sense of just reaching through the arms, so the fingertips are reaching towards your feet, shoulders nice and wide. So as you begin to breath and center, just coming into a really tiny little pelvic tilt, and it might be that you want to just do a few of those before you increase the range of movement. Otherwise, as you breath and center, you pelvic tilt and you begin to keep wheeling and peeling that spine at one vertebrae at a time to the point where you're neutral again. So arms can be quite active and you'll get more opening across the chest and the shoulders. Breath at the top, and then softening, peeling and releasing all the way back down. If you have osteoporosis, rather than articulating the spine, you could lift and lower the spine in one piece, and more of a bridge without that rolling motion. If as you lift up, the legs tend to want to do their own thing, you could use a cushion or a ball between your knees. So you can begin to roll up as you breath and center. Inhale at the top. Maybe a slight sense of tucking the tail underneath you, switching on the glutes and opening the hips. Take a breath and then melting the spine back down again. So you might want to stay with a few more of these, otherwise I'll give you a few options you can play with. So one option, you could peel up to your spine curl or your bridge on an exhale, and as you inhale just float the arms back, so ribcage closure, palms could face up or palms could face in. Keep that sense of arms drawing into the shoulder joint. And then as you breath and center, lowering the spine back down, and then once your pelvis has landed, arms come back. So you wheel up or lift up on an exhale, inhale, floating the arms, but they're not just flopping back, they're active, and then exhale, you let the spine release back down, and arms can come back again. I'm going to just go through windows as an option, which you could either do separately or combine with your spine curl. So while you're doing windows on its own, it might be that you prefer to add a small amount of head support back. We bring the arms in line with the shoulders. Palms away if you can, but palms facing in is okay if that suits your shoulders better. So as you breath and center, we draw the elbows down so they're wide and in line with your shoulders. They may or may not touch the floor, so be wary of forcing them down so much that the ribs begin to flare. You want to keep that heaviness at the back of the body. So you're in this goalpost cactus shape, and then when inhale, you're rolling back from the front of the upper arm and the shoulder, and then exhale, you extend the arm, so we're back in that ribcage closure shape, and inhale to return. So you exhale to lower, inhale, roll back, exhale, extend, and inhale to return. So you might prefer to stay with that on its own, or you could combine that with your spine curl. So starting with the arms up, you can lift the spine as the elbows come down on an exhale. Stay lifted in the spine as you inhale, roll those arms back. Exhale, extend the arms just before you let the spine begin to trickle down, and then the arms can come back up again. So the pelvis lifts up as the elbows go down on an exhale. Inhale, roll the arms back. Exhale, extend, and then letting that pelvis trickle all the way back down, and then arms can come back again. Let's do one more. So you can lift the pelvis up, lengthen the spine as elbows down. Inhale, roll back. Exhale, extend, and then you can peel that spine back down and bring the arms back again. Another option is to come into a few curl-ups and combine that with your spine curl. Again, leave that one out. If you have osteoporosis, stay with your bridges or windows instead. And also if you have any neck or shoulder issues, you might prefer to omit it. Otherwise, you can bring hands behind your head. So I'm interlacing my fingers and my thumbs, and I've got my thumb at the base of my hairline, at the top of the neck. Elbows and shoulders are soft. I'm trying to encourage length through the spine. Sometimes it feels nice to just shimmy the shoulder blades up the mat a little. So the weight of the head is dropping into your hands. So before we even think about curling up, we lengthen and come into that chin tuck. So inhale, find length. Exhale as you chin tuck, and then engage your center so the ribs glide down, the waist cinches in, and that is what brings you up rather than pulling on your head. Look and check that the pelvis is neutral, and then peeling and releasing yourself back down again. So you can inhale, find length. Exhale as you glide up. Breath to stay. Look and check the hips stay level. And then peeling and releasing back down. So let the weight of the head drop back into your hand. It's like a cradle or a basket. And if that's comfortable on its own, you may wish to combine that with your spine curl. So you could begin to peel up your spine curl as you exhale. Take a breath. And as you breath and center, you begin to lengthen into your curl up. So by the time your tailbone has touched down, you're in your curl up shape. Take a breath. You can let the upper body release down as the pelvis lifts up. And you're just toggling between those two. So almost like a seesaw or a wave. Finding this length and release through each segment of your spine. Good. Let's just finish off those. So settling down when you're ready. Releasing. You might want to bring your head support back. Perhaps gently let your head roll side to side. And then from here we'll do hip rolls and a couple of variations. So option one would be to bring the legs and the feet together. Have some head support as I mentioned. If you're on the floor, you could have the arms low V T shape. Because I'm narrower raised mat here, they're closer to my body than you may need to be. Keeping that upper back connected to the mat, the ribs really heavy. So you can inhale first, and as you breath and center, let the pelvis and legs peel one way, neck and head can go the other way. Take a breath when you get there, searching for length, and then drawing everything back to the midline. So breath and center, pelvis and legs go one way, neck and head maybe the other or staying centered. Breath to stay, and then you can glide yourselves back in again. Another variation would be to take the legs a little wider, so maybe mat width, or perhaps close to that, so your feet might be slightly off the edge of the mat, so the legs are wide and slightly turned out. So as well as the pelvis, you're getting the motion in the hip joint as well. So one leg would be turning out, one leg turning in as you add that hip roll movement. So still moving as you exhale and center, inhale to come back, exhale and center, inhale to come back. And one final variation is a two-knee twist, and it might be here that you prefer to use some extra support. So I'm going to grab my cushions here. So for this one, I'm coming back to legs and feet glued together, and just hover my pelvis a tiny bit, shifting it to the right, and then let my legs fall to the left. So I'm going to just use my cushion here, or you could use a block to support the legs, and you might prefer to use your ball or a bit of extra padding between the knees. So your upper back should still be connected to the mat. You might prefer knees a little lower or higher than me. See what's comfortable for you. And your gaze could be to the centre or to the other side. Your arms could be in a low V, T shape, or perhaps that window shape if it was comfortable for you. I like to keep my opposite arm in that windows or cactus shape, and then give myself a hug with my free arm, either around the ribs or either the side of the waist, just so I can encourage some length and heaviness there. If you can keep the shoulder anchored to the mat, you might wish to extend that arm. And we'll just stay for maybe 3 to 5 breaths. If you'd rather stay with your hip rolls that we covered earlier, no problem. Just find ease here. Head centered or head the other way, maybe looking towards your arm, whether it's in cactus or extended. And when you're ready, draw the arms close to your body, engage through your center, and you can slowly unravel. So one leg at a time is a little gentler. Just reset in the middle, so you're in that hip roll shape. And I'm going to hover the pelvis, shift the hips to the left, and let my legs fall to the right. I'm using my cushion just under my knees and trying not to fall off of here. And a support between the knees is more comfortable for me. So you might want to stay as you are, arms T shape, V shape, possibly in your cactus shape. Maybe it's nice to let the opposite arm wrap around to give you that sense of heaviness where you need it. Might be the side of the waist, might be ribs as well. And if it's comfortable, you could extend your arm as long as you're keeping that shoulder and the back of the ribs anchored down, head centered or towards the opposite direction to your legs. So you can take between 3 to 5 breaths as you settle here. Adjust the legs higher or lower if you need to, maybe bring the arms back. And just find ease as you breathe and soften in this position. And then after your few breaths, draw the arms closer to your body, head to the center, keep your center engaged, and you can bring the legs back to the midline one at a time. You may wish to give yourself a gentle hug by being under or over the knees and just gently rocking side to side. And then we'll lower the legs one at a time. And we're going to come onto our side lying position. So you can roll onto your side. You will need some extra head support. So I've got plenty of cushions here because you don't want to squash that underneath shoulder. You may also want your overball. I would use mine if it hadn't fallen on the floor, so you have something between your knees as well. So your legs are in a chair shape. Try not to scrunch up that top hip or waist. You want to keep some sense of lift all day right there. The neck is long and I've got plenty of cushions behind me. So shoulder stacked, arm stacked, although that top arm will be a little closer towards you than the underneath one. Check you're not squashing or slumping. So you're still finding length through the spine, lift through the waist, front to back and side to side. So option one is arm openings. When you inhale to open, look at your hand, soften your shoulders, and then exhale, ribs take you back. Breath here. And then ribs bring you back and arm comes to close. Option two is bow and arrow. So you inhale, hand to heart, hand to chest. Exhale as you rotate first, and then you maybe extend the arm and look towards your hand. Breath there, ribs bring you back and arm comes to close. Let's do maybe 3 or 4 more of those. So hand to chest, rotate, maybe open without just flinging that arm back. Look towards your hand. Breath, ribs bring you back. Arm comes to close. So you might want to check in if you can soften that shoulder, lengthen and lift through the waist, perhaps that top hip. We'll do one more after this one. Very nice. And when you've finished, let's just go the other way by reaching that top arm and upper body forward as you inhale and exhale to rock back. 2 or 3 times. Hopefully you feel a little stretch and release underneath the shoulder blade. Lovely. And then we'll come up to seated and just transition to our rotation on the other side. So grab your cushions, maybe your prop between your knees, and you can come onto your second side. So stacking up, we're in that chair position. You might have something here to keep the pelvis steady, hips stacked, shoulders stacked, and neck nice and long. So the top arm will be a little closer to you than the underneath arm, and we're trying not to squash that underneath side. So option one, inhale you open, look at your hand, soften your shoulder, and then exhale to rotate back. Take a breath, ribs bring you back, and arm comes to close. Option two is bow and arrow. You'd inhale, hand to chest, exhale as you rotate and open, breath, ribs bring you back, and arm comes to close. So we'll do 3 or 4 more of those. So hand to heart, hand to chest, soften that shoulder on an inhale. Exhale, let the ribs, neck and head move before you even think about extending that arm. Breath as you glide back again. So all the while, keep that lift through the waist, those hips stacked. So sometimes it helps to think of that top hip lengthening away a little, and always checking in if we can soften that shoulder. Very tempting for them to creep up towards our ears sometimes, so soften away as much as you need to. We'll finish off here, and then when you're done, top hand can just rest in the palm of the underneath hand and just reach that top arm, upper body forward a little as you inhale and exhale to rock back. Just 2 or 3 times. Hopefully you're feeling just a little stretch underneath that shoulder blade. And then from here we're going to come onto your tummy to do some extension. So you may need a small cushion under your tummy to support your low back, and probably something under your forehead as well. I'm propping up a little more because I'm hoping you'll still be able to hear me. So when we come onto your tummy, we'll settle the arms in your sort of goalpost, cobra prep shape, or where we were with windows. So you might be wider than I am on this raised mat because it's a little narrower here. Mine will be perhaps more of a W shape, yours might be more goalpost shape or somewhere between the two. So you find the position that suits your shoulders best. Might be higher or lower than mine. So we can come onto your tummy, lengthen yourself out as long as you can on the mat. Legs hip width or a little wider and slightly turned out. If your feet get really crampy, perhaps roll up a towel or put a cushion under the front of your feet. Really lengthen yourself, make yourself as long as you can as you come down, and perhaps you have forehead onto a small cushion as well. So arms in your cobra shape or your variation. Soften shoulders, lengthen neck, Worth just taking a little wiggle through the pelvis and the low back, just to try and find even weight through both hips. See how it feels as you next breathe out and center, just to engage your tummy a little bit. Maybe imagine there's an ice cube or a drawing pin under your belly button. If your low back is particularly tight or you tend to extend from that area, it might help you to just very slightly tilt and tuck the pubic bone forward a little to find a little more length through there. So we're settled here, shoulders soft, neck long. So we need to feel all tensed up here. So we feel really light on the arms. As you breath and center, we nudge your marble away with your nose and begin to glide the upper body up. So think more of length than height. Breath to stay. And then peeling, lengthening and releasing all the way back down. As you breath and center, we nudge that marble away and glide the upper body up. Breath to stay. Light on the arms, keep that support through your low back, and then peeling and releasing back down. We should not be feeling it in that low back. We're trying to strengthen and lengthen that upper back. So depending on how that's feeling, you might want to stay as you are. If it feels okay for you as you glide up, maybe see how it feels to hover one arm and perhaps the other arm, lower one and lower the other, and then releasing back down. If that's okay, you could glide up, hover one, hover the other. Breathing, centering throughout. Extend the arms to a T shape, roughly in line with your shoulders. Turn the arms and palms away and then sweep them around into dart. I'm imagining I'm squeezing something under the armpits. Stay for a breath. And let's lower the arms back down, and then you can bring them back round again. So breath and center as you uncurl. Breathing, scooping, centering, hovering arms. Extend to a T shape and then sweep them round into dart. Imagine you're squeezing something under the armpits. Find length through the neck. Stay for a breath as you lower, bringing the arms back. Let's do one more. Begin to unravel. Glide up. Breathing, scooping, centering. Hover the arms. T shape as you sweep to dart. Stay for a breath as you lower back down. And once you're back in your start position, you might want to head back towards your rest shape, or perhaps just turn to one side. You've got one arm, the arm and the leg bent on the same side. You can turn your head towards that side, so elbow towards knee. Stay for a couple of breaths, softening, sinking towards the floor, and then slowly back through center as you switch sides. So bending the elbow and the knee on the same side, turning your head to that side, and staying for a couple of breaths. Lovely. And come back through to the center. If you're okay to kneel, we're going to sit back towards puppy and rest position. Otherwise, you might prefer to come onto your back and hug your legs towards your chest. So you can lift yourself up, set up in your 4-point kneeling position for just a moment. So you've got knees under hips, arms under shoulders. If you need to pad out knees, that's fine. And then from here, begin to walk your hands forward. You may want a cushion hand knee just under your forehead. See how it feels. So we're heading just towards puppy pose. So you can soften down. Perhaps some head support might feel comfy maybe under your forehead or for your hairline. Just soften the shoulders, melt the chest, but we're keeping your bottom lifted up high. If you want more, you could come onto fingertips. If that's too much, maybe soften the arms a little. So stay for a few breaths to where you feel comfortable. Let those sit bones wide and the spine and the shoulders soften. You might prefer to stay here a little longer. Otherwise, you can walk yourself back to your 4-point kneeling position. Arms under shoulders, knees under hips. Spread out through the fingertips, draw the fingertips up a little, finding neutral spine, shoulders strong and neck long. So for cat, as you breath and center, you round into your cat shape, so tucking the head, tucking the tail. And then inhale, you find your neutral spine. You may wish to pause at neutral, or if it's comfortable for you, you can shine your gaze and breastbone forward, soften the belly and open the sit bones, so I'm in a little more extension here. And then pass back through neutral. So you can round as you exhale. Inhale, either pause at neutral or perhaps a little bit of extension. Another option is that you could round and reverse as you exhale. Inhale as you find either neutral or extension and rock back. So this is rolling or rocking cat. So rounding as you reverse. Inhale as you find neutral or possibly a little bit of extension and rock forward. Let's do one or two more here. Try not to lock out through the elbows as we go. And then we'll sit back to a comfortable rest or child's pose, or you come onto your back and give yourself a hug. So feet close together, knees as wide as is comfortable for you. Use any cushions you need under knees, behind knees, or under your head. And just let yourself melt towards the mat, taking a few breaths here. So breathing into the back of the body. Perhaps you can feel the ribs expand against your thighs. Let the sit bones widen. You might wish to walk one hand over to the other to take that long lateral stretch. Take a couple of breaths to one side before you switch over, walking the hands over. But keep that pelvis really centered and the sit bones anchored down. And you can walk back through to the center for a couple of breaths before you bring the hands close to you. And then we'll slowly unravel to stack back up. So next, you're welcome to be seated or possibly come to a mermaid position. So you might prefer to sit cross-legged, long frog, and always a great idea to prop up the pelvis a little to give you a bit more space around the hips and the spine to find length. Otherwise, if a mermaid position is comfortable for you, you can come into this shape. It might be that it's comfortable with one leg and you need to kick the other leg out, and that's fine. So from here, whatever position you're in, you might be seated centrally, you might be off center in mermaid. Try to stack up shoulders and hips as best you can. We're going to just bring arms behind you, just lightly on fingertips, and just glance up. So look up just a little, shine your gaze and breastbone up for a moment. And then come back up tall. If you're seated centrally, you can lean forward centrally. If you're in mermaid like me, you can lengthen, turn towards your front leg and just begin to come over it. So on the floor, you might have hands a little further forward. So I'm just keep hanging on here. I'm just going to release my body forward for 2 or 3 breaths. You might be walking along on the floor. If it's too much, you back out of it sooner. When you are ready to come out, use the hands, use your center to help you stack back up. And we'll just do a side reach to each side before we switch the legs. So fingertips lightly to the floor. If you're in mermaid, hand can be on that outer ankle. Inhale as you float one arm up. Exhale, you could either soften the elbow into your waist or crawl the fingertips away a little as you come into that mermaid lateral stretch. Breath into that side as you use the arm, the center, your spine to lengthen back up. And then we'll do the other side. So your counter stretch. Inhale up, exhale over. Breathing into there. And then lengthening to stack back up. And if you were in your mermaid sit, we'll just switch the legs the other way. Otherwise, you could stay seated. If legs are crossed, perhaps try crossing them with the other leg on top. So we're setting up hips as square as we can, shoulders stacked over hips. First off, arms behind you, fingertips lightly on the floor so we're not sinking into shoulders, and just glance up. So shine your gaze and breastbone up for a moment. And then stack up tall. If you're sat centrally, you lean forward in one piece. If you're in mermaid, you can turn and lean over that front leg. So you might be walking your hands along the floor. So on the other side, I'm going to just hang on just in case. And take a few breaths when you get to that sweet spot for you. If it's too much, back out of this sooner. When you are ready, use your hands, use your center to help you stack back up again. When you come up tall, try and stack up shoulders and hips, and we'll do your mermaid or your side reach to each side. So you might be fingertips lightly to the floor or hand on the outer ankle. Elbow could tuck into the waist as you come over, or you climb your fingertips away. So you'd inhale, float that arm up, exhale up and over, softening the underneath shoulder, opposite sit bone, waist lengthening, breath into that side. And then begin to bring yourself back with your arm, with your center. And then your counter stretch, inhale up, exhale over. Breath into that side, underneath shoulder can soften. And then we're lengthening back up again. And if you were in your mermaid shape, Welcome to come to legs crossed or long frog, or just shake out your legs for a moment. Just settle the shoulders, stack up your body weights, and we'll do a neck stretch now before we finish off. So opposite hand to shoulder. You might want to rest your arm on your leg or down by your side. Check that the other arm or the shoulder doesn't creep up. So we'll lengthen chin tuck and just tilt your head away from your hand. That might be enough. If you want more, just turn your head, drop your gaze. Welcome to perhaps move the hand away or behind, just to find the sweet spot for you for a couple of breaths. When you're ready to unravel, arm can come a little closer, come back to that tilted position and stack up. And then just reset for a moment, switching over, opposite hand to shoulder, hand could rest on the leg or down by your side. So we lengthen chin tuck, tilt your head away from your hand, keep the shoulders soft as well. Maybe that's enough, or you turn your head, drop your gaze. Welcome to move the hand away or behind. Just find the sweet spot for you for a couple of breaths. And then unraveling whenever you're ready, coming back to your centre. Move the shoulders, wiggle the spine. Give yourself a moment to breathe and notice how everything feels. I hope things feel a little better. We focused on opening upper body, particularly in shoulders and the neck. So take care of you, take care of yourself. Important to look after yourself to enable you to look after those around you. So sending love, good movement, and keep in touch, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.